Welcome to Higher Education Marketing Institute. Today we're unpacking how AI, user experience, and ruthless segmentation are reshaping the entire enrollment pipeline for 2026, and what that means for marketing and admissions leaders right now. There's a lot of noise about AI and digital, but the institutions getting actual results are the ones tying every move to trust, relevance, and measurable outcomes. So, let's get specific.
We're not just talking about new tools or platforms. The entire journey, from first search to submitted application, has changed shape. AI-powered search, zero-click results, and shifting student behaviors mean you can't just bolt on a new channel and expect last year's funnel to work. If you're still running the same campaigns on Facebook and calling it a day, your ad dollars are probably reaching more parents than students. That's not just us saying it. Sarah Russell at EducationDynamics has the data.
Let's start with that point. According to EducationDynamics, the average Facebook user is now approaching 40. That's not your 17-year-old prospect. It's their parents' co-workers, maybe a recent grad or two. But Gen Z, your actual applicants, are on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, using those platforms as search engines. They want to see real student experiences, not your glossy admissions spot repurposed for social, and they can spot the difference immediately.
If you're still taking that 30-second TV ad and dropping it onto TikTok, you're missing the point. Short-form video has its own language, and Gen Z can sniff out anything that isn't authentic or peer-driven. The platforms that built the class of 2017's enrollment don't move the needle for the class of 2027. The numbers are clear. More students are researching on TikTok and YouTube as primary college research tools. If your content isn't native to those platforms, you're not even in the conversation.
But here's where it gets tricky. Parents still have huge influence on the college decision. So, yes, you need parent campaigns, but not in the same funnel. EducationDynamics is blunt about this. When you bundle parent and student messaging in a single campaign, you waste money and weaken results for both. Parents want to know about outcomes, financial aid, and institutional stability. Students care about campus culture, fit, and the lived experience. Trying to serve both with one message just means neither group gets what they need.
And it's not just about creative. It's about targeting, journey mapping, and budget allocation. Sarah Russell's recommendation is to split your media buys. Run parent-only campaigns with outcome-focused content, like financial aid webinars and ROI landing pages. For students, go where they are, use student-created video, and speak their language. Mixing the two is a fast way to burn budget and get mediocre conversions. It's a classic case of trying to please everyone and ending up with a campaign that resonates with no one.
Let's talk about what happens once you actually get a click. Because, as Sarah Russell points out in a follow-up piece, the gap between a prospect clicking an ad and submitting an application is wider than ever. She calls it the engagement gap. You spend all this money to get the click, then let the moment slip away with slow or generic follow-up. 3 days later, a canned email lands in their inbox. By then, the urgency that got them to click is gone. And it's not just 18-year-olds. The same thing happens for adult learners.
Speed to first contact is one of the strongest predictors of whether a prospect converts, and it's also one of the easiest things to fix, if your systems talk to each other. But most institutions still have marketing and admissions running on separate platforms. The result? A student gets a polished marketing email on Monday, a generic CRM message from admissions on Tuesday, and maybe a phone call on Wednesday that doesn't reference either. To the prospect, it sounds like the institution has no clue who they are or what they want.
That fragmentation is expensive, especially as cost per click keeps rising. AI overviews and zero-click search are pushing organic results down, so you're paying more for every visit. If you're not optimizing the post-click moment, personalized landing pages, fast follow-up, a frictionless application, your cost per enrolled student goes up, not down. And as Sarah Russell says, a fragmented stack quietly erodes the return on every dollar you spend. You can't afford that in 2026.
It's not all doom and gloom, though. The institutions that are getting this right are seeing better conversion and lower spend. The playbook is clear. Build program-specific landing pages. Respond quickly, ideally within hours, not days, and make the application process as smooth as possible. If your workflow still requires a prospect to re-enter the same information multiple times, you're losing them to a competitor who makes the process easier.
Let's shift to the website itself. Modern Campus published a redesigned checklist that's become required reading for anyone planning a new site. Their first point: a redesign isn't just a visual refresh. It's a strategic project that sets the foundation for years to come. Start with measurable goals and a content audit. Every design decision should tie back to a real outcome, not just aesthetics.
And accessibility isn't optional anymore. Public colleges have to meet WCAG 2.1 Level AA, with compliance deadlines coming up fast. In a recent audit, 95.9% of top homepages still had accessibility failures. If you're not building accessibility in from the start, you're just baking in problems that will take another redesign to fix. It's not a compliance box to check at the end. It's a core requirement from day one.
The CMS decision is another big one. Modern Campus is clear. Your CMS controls publishing speed, permissions, and scalability. It's the most consequential technical choice you'll make. If you pick a system that can't enforce governance or handle accessibility, you're setting yourself up for years of headaches. And don't forget the migration and redirect plan. Protecting SOD during a redesign is table stakes now.
And it's not just about prospective students. The modern learner moves in and out of education throughout their life. Your website has to support discovery and re-engagement for many audiences at many stages, not just first-time enrollment. That means planning for scalability, integrations, and workflows that will work in year 3, not just at launch. A rushed redesign creates content debt and accessibility gaps that haunt you for years.
Let's move upstream. QuadC's analysis of the domestic enrollment pipeline is a wake-up call. The old model, attract more applications, admit the right students, convert them, doesn't fit the current environment. Demographics are shifting. Wish projects a 13% decline in US high school graduates from the 2025 peak through 2041. Students are applying to more schools, and affordability is non-negotiable. The funnel isn't just leaking, it's basically different.
The modern enrollment funnel is awareness, application, admission, enrollment, persistence. And you have to think about every stage, not just the top. According to QuadC, the average applicant now applies to about 6.6 institutions. More applications don't equal more enrollments. The real challenge is moving students through each stage, keeping them engaged, supported, and confident they made the right choice.
That means starting earlier, too. QuadC recommends engaging students as early as 9th grade, and keeping families in the loop. Build deeper partnerships with high schools and community colleges. Use articulation agreements to smooth transfer pathways, and personalize communication. Consistent, early touch points build momentum long before senior year. It's about pipeline strength, not just yield at the end.
And don't overlook the power of value messaging. Prospects want to see clear ROI, career pathways, graduation rates, affordability, and support services. QuadC points out that many four-year schools need roughly 20% application growth over 5 years just to maintain modest gains. You can't get there with generic marketing. You need to spotlight high-demand programs and make costs and outcomes explicit.
Now, let's bring AI back into the mix. EB's Emily Upton lays out the new reality. Students are discovering your institution through AI-powered search, not just Google. They are asking AI tools which colleges fit their goals, where they can get in, and what they can afford. And here's the kicker. 56% of students say they are more likely to trust an institution cited in an AI-generated summary. If your content isn't showing up in those answers, you're invisible to a growing share of your market.
That means your digital strategy has to be AI-ready. Schema-rich pages, verified institutional data, and clear citations aren't nice-to-haves. They're essential for discoverability. And when a student finally lands on your website, they're validating what they've already seen in an AI answer. If your site doesn't reinforce or clarify that information, you lose trust instantly. There's no room for disconnect between what AI says about you and what you actually deliver.
So, what does it take to win in this environment? Let's get concrete. First, make your content AI ready. Answer real questions in plain language. Cite your sources, and use structured data. Second, segment your audiences. Students, parents, transfers. Build separate journeys and budgets for each. Third, win the post-click moment. Program specific landing pages, rapid follow-up, and a seamless application process.
Fourth, protect your discoverability. Invest in campus-level local SEO, authoritative content clusters, and SEO-safe migrations anchored by the right CMS and governance. And finally, measure what matters. Don't get distracted by vanity metrics like CTR track full funnel attribution, qualified inquiries, organic program rankings, AI citations, conversion rates, and tie your spend to actual applications, enrollments, and cost per enrolled student.
Let's talk about measurement for a second. HEMI's guidance is to track a 6-month baseline, then document internal playbooks. That means you're not guessing, you know what's working, and you have the data to justify shifts in spend or strategy. And don't be afraid to pause top-click campaigns that aren't producing applications or lowering cost per enrolled student. High CTR is a vanity metric. If it's not moving the needle on enrollment, it's not worth the budget.
That's a tough pill for some teams to swallow, especially if they've built their reporting around clicks and impressions. But the reality is, you're being judged on enrollment outcomes, not just lead volume. And as AI and zero-click search keep changing the funnel, the institutions that adapt their measurement and attribution are the ones that will keep winning. And let's be honest, no one wants to explain to leadership why budget went up but enrollment stayed flat.
Let's wrap with a few controversial ideas from the week's HEMI roundup. First, mixing parent and student messaging isn't just inefficient, it's actively wasting money. Some institutions should consider shifting half their budget to parent-only campaigns. Second, brand consistency shouldn't trump results. Treating each campus as a separate local brand, with its own Google business profile, landing pages, and reviews, can outperform a unified identity, especially in competitive markets.
And here's one that will ruffle feathers. Publishing lots of AI-generated content without institutional data and citations is riskier than publishing less, but making sure it's fully sourced. Unsourced AI content won't earn trust or citations in AI answers. In fact, it could undermine your credibility. Quality and verification beat volume every time.
Final takeaways for enrollment and marketing leaders. Prioritize trust and relevance. Ground your AI strategy in verified data and human review. And publish authoritative, schema-rich content. Segment ruthlessly. Win the post-click moment. And measure what actually drives enrollment. The old playbook isn't coming back.
And remember, this isn't about chasing every new tool. It's about aligning strategy, content, and operations around outcomes you can prove. If you're tracking the right metrics, investing in the right channels, and building journeys for each audience, you'll spend less and enroll more. Or, at the very least, you'll know exactly where your dollars are going, and why.
That's it for this episode of Higher Education Marketing Institute. For more resources, check out the latest guides and research on the HEMI site. And if you're planning a redesign or rethinking your media mix, now's the time to get your teams aligned. We'll be back next week with more on what's actually working in higher ed marketing.
Thanks for listening. If you want to dive deeper into any of the sources we mentioned, EducationDynamics, Modern Campus, QuadC, they're all linked in the show notes. Until next time, keep your focus on what drives real enrollment outcomes. And if you're still running Facebook-only campaigns for undergrads, maybe it's time for a hard look at your audience data. See you next week.
Let's dig into segmentation a bit more, because here is where a lot of institutions still get stuck. EducationDynamics is pretty blunt. Most higher ed ad budgets are still skewed toward platforms like Facebook, which means you're talking to parents, not students. Yet, despite the mounting evidence, many teams hesitate to split their creative, their spend, or even their reporting. The pushback we hear is usually about efficiency or brand consistency, but the data says otherwise.
Right, and it's not just a theoretical debate. Sarah Russell's research at EducationDynamics shows that student and parent journeys diverge early and stay separate. Parents are still among the most influential voices in the process, but their needs, think financial aid, outcomes, stability, are wildly different from what students are searching for on TikTok or YouTube. If you're running a campaign that tries to satisfy both, you're sending mixed signals and, frankly, leaving conversion on the table.
There's also a resource allocation issue here. If you're not segmenting, you're probably overpaying to reach the wrong audience on the wrong channel. The recommendation from EducationDynamics is to run parent-only campaigns, with content like ROI calculators, financial aid webinars, and outcome-focused landing pages. Then, on the student side, Invest in student-created video and authentic peer stories. The operational challenge is that this means separate journeys, budgets, and metrics. But the upside is real. Higher relevance, better conversion, and more efficient spend.
I'll play devil's advocate. Some teams argue that splitting campaigns increases complexity and makes measurement harder. But the alternative, blending everything together, just means you can't see what's working. And with platforms fragmenting even further, the only way to get clarity is to segment ruthlessly. If you're worried about complexity, start with one audience, maybe just parents, or just transfers. Prove the lift, then scale.
And don't forget, this isn't just about digital ads. The same segmentation logic applies to your website, email, even events. Modern Campus makes the point that a website redesign is your chance to build for these distinct journeys. If your site navigation, landing pages, and forms treat every visitor the same, you're missing the opportunity to personalize at scale. The best sites guide parents to outcome data and affordability info, while giving students fast paths to campus life. Program videos, and application steps.
Accessibility plays in here, too. It's not just a legal requirement, though with the WCAG 2.1 AA deadlines coming up, it's about to become a lot more urgent. If you're building separate journeys for parents, students, transfers, and adult learners, you have to make sure every path is accessible, mobile-friendly, and fast. Otherwise, you're just creating new friction points. And as Modern Campus points out, 95.9% of top homepages still have accessibility failures. That's not a stat you want to be part of.
Let's shift to AI and discoverability, because here is where the ground is shifting fastest. EB's Emily Upton is clear. Students are starting their search with AI tools, not traditional search engines. They are asking, which colleges fit my budget or what's the best nursing program in my state before they ever hit a .edu site. If your institution isn't cited in those AI-generated answers, you're invisible at the moment of decision. And with 56% of students saying they trust institutions cited in AI summaries, that's a trust gap you can't afford.
But here's the tension. Making your content AI-ready takes a different approach than old-school SEO. Schema-rich pages, clear citations, and verified data are now the price of entry, and you have to publish in a way that AI can parse and cite. It's not enough to have a beautiful site or strong rankings if your program pages aren't structured for AI discovery. The risk is, you could have a great nursing program, but if AI can't find or cite your outcomes, someone else gets the mention.
This is why the HEMI guidance is so focused on trust and relevance. Every claim on your site should be backed by institutional data, cited clearly, and reviewed by humans. And, as EB notes, your site should reinforce what students have already seen in AI answers. If there's a disconnect, if AI says your tuition is $22,000, but your site says $25,000, or the program details don't match, you lose trust instantly. There's no time for a prospect to dig deeper. They'll just move on.
And here is where a lot of institutions fall into the AI content trap. Publishing lots of unsourced, generic AI-generated content might fill your blog, but it won't earn citations or trust. HEMI's position is clear. It's safer to publish less, but make sure every page is authoritative and fully sourced. Otherwise, you risk being ignored by both AI tools and human researchers. Quality, not volume.
Let's connect all this to the enrollment pipeline. QuadC's analysis makes a strong case that the real challenge isn't just more applications, but moving students through every stage: awareness, application, admission, enrollment, persistence. With the average applicant now applying to over 6 schools, and the total number of high school grads declining, the pressure is on to build a stronger pipeline, not just fill the top of the funnel.
And that pipeline has to start earlier. QuadC recommends engaging students in grades 9 and 10, building momentum with consistent, personalized communication. That's a big shift for a lot of schools that still treat junior year as the starting line. But the data is clear. Early engagement, especially with clear value messaging and support for families, leads to higher yield and less melt later on.
There's also a big operational challenge here. QuadC's research points out that building deeper partnerships with high schools and community colleges, setting up articulation agreements, and smoothing transfer pathways is where a lot of the real work happens. It's not glamorous, but it's what actually widens the funnel and supports students through to enrollment and persistence.
And let's not gloss over affordability. With students and families more price sensitive than ever, institutions have to be transparent about costs and aid. QuadC notes that many schools will need a 20% application growth over 5 years just to keep enrollment flat. That's not going to happen with generic marketing or hidden costs. Spotlighting high-demand programs, clear career pathways, and real outcomes is what moves the needle.
So, how do you tie all this together? The HEMI playbook is pretty direct. Make your content AI ready. Segment your audiences. Win the post-click moment. Protect your discoverability. And measure what matters. But let's get even more tactical for enrollment and marketing leaders. First, audit your current funnel. Where are you losing prospects? Is it post-click? Is it in the handoff between marketing and admissions? Or is it further down, at financial aid or registration?
And don't just look at volume. Look at speed, personalization, and relevance at every step. For example, how quickly does your team respond to a new inquiry? Are your follow-ups tailored to the channel and the audience? Or are they generic? EducationDynamics is clear. Slow or generic follow-up is one of the most fixable leaks in the entire funnel. You don't need a new platform to get faster. You need better coordination and accountability.
Next, review your content for AI readiness. Are your program pages structured with Schema? Do you cite your data? Are your outcomes and costs clear and up to date? If you're not sure, try prompting an AI tool with a question about your institution. What comes back? If the answer is outdated or missing, that's a clear signal you need to update and structure your content for both humans and machines.
I'd add, take a hard look at your reporting. If your dashboards are still built around clicks, impressions, or even inquiries, you're missing the full picture. As HEMI recommends, track full funnel metrics, qualified inquiries, organic rankings, AI citations, conversion rates, and, most importantly, cost per enrolled student. Tie your spend to real outcomes, not vanity metrics.
On the website front, follow Modern Campus's checklist. Set measurable goals. Audit your content. Pick your CMS early. Bake in accessibility. And plan for scalability. Don't treat the redesign as a cosmetic project. It's the foundation for every digital journey you'll run for the next 5 years. And if you're not sure where to start, benchmark your site against WCAG 2.1 AA and mobile performance today. The compliance deadlines aren't moving.
And a quick note on local SEO. Treating each campus as a separate brand, with its own Google business profile, unique landing pages, and reviews, is a big shift for many institutions. But in competitive regions, this approach can drive more intent and conversions than a single unified brand. It's not about abandoning consistency, but about meeting prospects where they are, with the information and experience that's most relevant locally.
Let's look at one more operational challenge: the fragmented tech stack. EducationDynamics lays out how marketing and admissions often run on separate systems, leading to fragmented communications and lost context. The fix isn't always a massive replatforming. Sometimes it's as simple as mapping out the student journey, identifying every touch point, and making sure data flows smoothly between systems. The goal: one continuous conversation, not a series of disconnected messages.
And if you're resource constrained, start small. Pick a single program or audience segment, map out the journey, clean up the handoffs, and measure the results. Once you've shown improvement, use that as a case study to build support for wider change. The key is to get out of the mindset that you have to fix everything at once. Iteration beats inertia.
To sum up, the shift to AI-powered search, segmented journeys, and data-driven operations isn't optional. The winners in 2026 will be the institutions that align strategy, content, and operations around trust, relevance, and measurable outcomes. That might mean tough choices, like pausing high CTR campaigns that don't convert, or investing in accessibility and local SEO over a brand refresh. But the data is clear. Precision beats generality, and early, personal engagement powers the pipeline.
And if you're still on the fence about making these changes, consider this. Every year you wait, the gap between leaders and laggards widens. The platforms, behaviors, and expectations are moving whether you do or not. So, pick a place to start. Audit your funnel, update your content, segment your audiences, or streamline your follow-up. The perfect strategy is less important than making measurable progress. And if you hit a wall, reach out to peers or consult the latest research. There's more practical guidance out there than ever. That's the real advantage of being part of the Higher Education Marketing Institute community.
That wraps up this extended episode of Higher Education Marketing Institute. For deeper dives, check the show notes for links to sources from EducationDynamics, Modern Campus, QuadC, and EB. Take these lessons back to your teams, challenge your assumptions, and focus on the moves that actually drive enrollment and retention. Next week, we'll tackle the evolving role of faculty and student voices in digital recruiting, because as much as AI is changing the funnel, trust is still built peer-to-peer. Thanks for joining us.